Well, I thought you'd be proud of me.
Really?
I hope
I'm
you'd be
already proud
proud
of
of
you.
me. Well, that's nice. I guess I'll stop there then.
No, keep going.
So if you remember last week, we were talking about smoothies and the sugar that I was consuming that morning.
Yeah, a
Well,
lot of it.
yes, it was a lot of it. Well, I went to Walmart the other day, earlier this week, and I picked up an actual strawberry parfait breakfast smoothie. It
It's
has
everyone clapping for you.
8 grams. One guy, is one guy here clapping.
They're all just clapping in unison, very, very
Gotcha.
lightly.
It's got 8 grams of protein. It's
Yes.
a lot of grams.
Yeah. Keep going. I'm more proud of you slightly.
I don't know how much sugar's in it. 35 grams. That's still a lot.
It's basically the same thing.
No, it's got more protein.
What, by like 3?
No, I think there's only like 1 or 2 in the other one.
Why would they even list it that
This
way?
has 16% of my daily protein in it. That's a lot of percentage.
Where are you gonna get the rest of it?
I don't know, Chick-fil-A.
Oh man, I miss Chick-fil-A. The closest one is forever away though. That's one thing I miss about Texas.
Really? It's not. There's
Yeah.
none of them are close by.
No, there's like one, and I think it's downtown. I could try to get it ordered, but
That's expensive.
also I'm like slightly sick, so that just sounds kind of good right now. Chick-fil-A, but it never fills me up. We've talked about this before. Don't get into it. Don't ask me what I eat at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, you would never tell me what I eat at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah,
Just chicken.
just chicken. I eat chicken at Chick-fil-A because that's what you do.
Do you get the milkshake?
Sometimes.
Mmm,
Yeah, they have a.
good
Well,
milkshake.
I'll tell you about this. This doesn't have chicken in it, but I get the lemonade like shake thingy majigger do. I don't know what that's
Oh,
called.
frozen lemonade?
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, I've never had it there, but I'm a lemonade guy.
You
I'll
should
have
get it.
lemonade any place, anytime,
It
anywhere.
is so good, Ryan. You should get it. Absolutely. I used to
Strawberry,
eat there all the time when we were at school because
raspberry.
it's like 2 feet from my dorm where I lived. Now it's so far away and I don't have a car anymore.
That's a shame.
It is a shame. But you know what's not a shame, Ryan?
What?
The dungeon crawl is not a shame.
Unless
welcome.
you're crawling through the dungeon and you
It's
get,
still not a shame.
well, hang on, I'm getting there. And then you get super dirty and you come out and your clothes are just covered in grime and soot and dirt. And then you
But
gotta
did they
go
have a good time?
and you gotta go to a noble ball
Oh,
and you just
Hey,
look
don't-
filthy.
it's too early to reference our campaign.
Sorry.
We'll get into it. But yeah, as I mentioned, hello. I'm Braxton. Hello,
I'm Ryan.
greetings. And this is the Dungeon Crawl, and today
Podcast where we waffle on about D&D.
and Chick-fil-A sometimes.
Well, that was the first time. I don't know if we can say we talked about Chick-fil-A if we've only talked about it once.
I don't know. I think that's all it takes. I think it's all it takes. But this time around, we were doing our planning, and I think we discussed it a little bit at the end of our last episode, but we
Yeah.
kind of didn't get to cover NPCs in role-playing and how a DM could kind of do that.
It's a role play to role play harder.
Yeah. So, I mean, Ryan knows a lot more about this than I do, even though I'm about to start running my own campaign again.
Yeah, you have to start taking some notes.
Yeah, I really should. I'll listen to the podcast again. But take it off for us, Ryan.
Well, what we didn't get into last time was the different categories and different separations that I have for NPCs. Granted, I mean, there isn't a huge difference between role playing a PC and role playing an NPC. Besides that, as a DM, you have to juggle, like 100 NPCs
Millions of
sometimes
them.
in a session. Yeah.
If you're not making every single character that exists in your world from the start as the first thing that you do as a DM, then, like, quit.
Dang.
No, I'm
Is that what
being
you're doing?
sarcastic.
Is that what
No.
you're doing?
It's what you have been doing, but you've been
Not
in that
really.
world for a long
Kind
time.
of.
He has this giant family tree of like
Oh,
the
yeah.
7 noble families, or
Yeah, I got
I
a big old family tree sitting in
I think
front
that's
of me.
what they're called. Yeah, it's massive. Did you finish it?
Getting there, yeah.
Okay. I have a question I want to ask about that later. Remind me to ask you.
Sure,
So
I'll
I
write it
will
down.
forget.
Ask me a question.
That won't help
Boom.
because I'm not going to remember. Been forgetting stuff a lot lately, but what I'm not forgetting is that we're talking about NPCs today.
Non-player characters.
Did you want to
DM
jump
characters.
into those categories right away?
Sure, yeah. So I kind of break it down to a couple different categories. You could maybe say 4, but you can kind of toss a couple into a similar category. One would just be the ones that don't really have much role-playing stuff going on outside of combat. So it'd be combatants mainly. Be NPCs who are just involved within the fighting, whether they're against or for the player characters. They don't really require as much personality development, but the DM will have to consider what they would do in the middle of combat.
Okay.
Yeah, I can be a little. I think these are probably the easiest ones to run because you're not like trying to improv conversation on the spot. But these are usually the type of ones that your players will end up hating because you'll be killing them with these guys and say, oh, I mean, that's what they would have done. They would have. It's not me. It's
he
them.
does that all the time in our game, and for bad and good, for the bad and good of our party, because we'll be fighting some sort of a monster or thing, and say, I don't think he makes it easy for us, and if you did, I'd be mad at you. Sometimes I'll be fighting a thing, and I'm like, I might be in some day. What? Oh, there's that Simpsons character. Have you ever watched Simpsons?
Ever watched what?
I'm in danger, something like that.
I don't.
And then the character will like flip around because they got poked by somebody else, and he's like, they would do that. I'm like, would they?
Yeah.
So there's that thing, and then other times it's the other way around, where it's like you're playing a game on the hardest difficulty, and the NPCs or enemies can just tell when somebody's low health, so they immediately go for that person, even though they know they die.
Well, it depends on the intelligence level of the enemies that their players are fighting. So, like, if you're fighting a bunch of wizards or mind flayers or something that has a specific agenda, they want to take out one specific character and want to take him back, or they understand that there's a cleric in the party that will be trying to heal them back to life. Let's take them out first, or something like that. Or you're fighting wolves or goblins, things that won't think that far ahead and just gonna go full on attack mode or full on flight mode if it gets to it.
Very often it does. So wait, you're telling me that you use the intelligence stat to tell when somebody's going to do something?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. It's definitely. I mean, it's there for a reason, right? You can definitely look at the intelligence level of a certain thing and get a idea of how smart or what they would be doing. Like the wolf intelligence level is 3, so kind of puts that into.
It's better than 1 and 2.
It is, but it's still a negative, like a 3 or negative 4 to your intelligence rolls.
Well, then that gets me thinking. Well, do they have all of their stats listed?
Yeah.
What is a wolf's charisma stat?
6.
Yeah.
They're kind of charismatic, but not super charismatic.
So thinking about that, though, maybe you've got like a wolf pack leader and his charisma's a bit higher.
Yes, feel free to, tweak things, have certain monsters or certain NPCs. They're just a little bit above the normal cloth of these other guys that they're fighting.
Wolves don't wear cloth, but that's okay. I'll let you get away with that analogy.
They could wear cloth. What's wrong with that? You ever seen people dress up their dogs for Halloween?
Yeah. It's to each their own. To each their own, Ryan.
There's also, speaking of that, and if you don't like tweaking, then you can look at. I mean, there's direwolf stats. There's winter wolf stats. There's lots of different wolf stats. You can have a winter wolf. Like the winter wolf intelligence is a 7 instead of a 4 or 3.
Really?
Yeah. The
Who decides this?
Wizards of the Coast.
Can you tell me your reasons?
The direwolf is still a 3 intelligence.
Yeah, so I mean, the first time I realized that you were truly role playing these NPCs even during combat was a really weird moment for me. He's like, well, that's what they do. I go, huh. It's not just an AI making decisions for
Yeah.
a character. It's my dungeon master playing this character. Like if somebody is fighting a wolf and perhaps they like bring out a bunch of meat, stab them and throw the meat somewhere else, maybe they'll go for the meat. I don't know. It depends.
Yeah, that's true. And it's not like I think it's taken a little bit for you guys to understand. It's not me attacking you guys and trying to slaughter everybody. It's
Questionable.
Hey, it's not. I put myself into the shoes of these creatures, try to decide what best. And if I honestly can't decide, have had times where they're all attacking this one creature, and I'll just roll like a d4 and assign a number to each person and say, okay, it's gonna attack you. Or if someone attacked it last, depending on how smart it is, it'll attack that person.
Yeah. I just had a thought, man.
What's your
Ooh
thought?
boy. It's gone though. It's gonna happen every episode.
It's already gone. You just had a thought and it's gone.
I had the thought and I didn't grab it and think about it long
Gotcha,
enough,
and
and
it
now
flew away.
it flew away. So we were talking about NPCs and how you can. Yeah, I remember it now. Remember
Perfect.
when you Ron, you sir, I think it was last
Me.
episode that you say you prefer and you
Yeah.
enjoy it
Uh-huh.
when we refer to ourselves as me in the game
Yes.
as our characters.
Yes.
So technically, isn't it you?
But
all
I'm
those
not the player.
characters?
I'm not
You're
the player
killing us.
character.
Oh,
No.
you can't do that.
No, that's not the same. That's not the same idea. You guys
Yeah, it
are one
is.
person. I'm hopping
We want
around.
our DM to be getting into the game.
I mean, I'm getting into the game, but I'm
No,
not that.
You're
person.
obviously not dedicated enough, Ryan. You haven't put enough time or effort into this campaign that we've
I
been
don't
doing for
know.
nearly 3 years.
Yeah, obviously. Apparently, I didn't realize I was doing it wrong.
Man, no, I feel like NPCs is something you've always been pretty nifty at.
Well, it's been my favorite. I like role playing.
Yeah.
As you can tell from this episode and the last episode, role playing is one of my favorite aspects of the game. So I'm all about trying to make interesting NPCs and diving into their heads. What makes them tick? What makes them do? One of my favorite moments from the last campaign was from my favorite combat roleplay moments was you guys were fighting this. I don't remember what exactly had happened, but you were in the wilderness and found this house, this mansion, who they took you in, and you guys quickly realized something was a little off about this place. And turns out the guy was, in cahoots with some devils or something, and was making a portal to the.
I now remember.
Yeah, it's like the third plane of or the third level of hell. I don't remember. I'd have to look it up. I still have the notes here if I wanted to find it. But he had a daughter that was cursed by this devil, and he was trying to nurse it up to health. And you guys found this, and you banished his banished his daughter with some thing you'd gotten from another NPC quite a while previously. Sent it to him, and that set him off, man. That really pissed this dude off, and so he downed one of the players. And I remember he said something like some sick one-liner, like an eye for an eye or something. And then instead of attacking any of you, he just stabbed the guy on the ground.
What?
You don't remember that's how he killed JJ?
Oh my god!
Yeah, instead of attacking any of you, you more or less basically killed his daughter in front of him. So he said, you know what? An eye for an eye, and stabbed him and was sacrificing JJ to his devil. Yeah, and that was quite the moment.
And then JJ went Oathbreaker Paladin. After
yeah, and then
him.
You guys were able to revive him, and he revoked all his oaths, took his character sheet, crossed everything out, and rewrote everything.
Huh.
Crazy moments.
I do remember that now. I don't remember how I banished them. I think I was given something.
Yeah, you were given a stone or something to.
Oh, I sent it to. Oh, what was his name?
I don't remember. There's some NPC that the party had met that was there that wanted to understand more crazy things of the world, and you'd made a pact with them to send him something cool.
I was like, I know Cthulhu. I could learn more about that and tell you things. And he's like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. So that's another thing about NPCs, though. First, you can make a wonderful background for your character, which I need to work on. And also, during the game, that background, that history for your character doesn't stop. Every single person you meet and everything that's going on in this campaign gets added to your character's background.
Adds to your story.
When I find a NPC or any character that I meet in this world and I just get connected to them, it pulls me in so much more.
Oh, yeah.
NPCs are your connection, are the player's connection
Helps
to the
ground
world.
people into the world.
And they're used for a lot more than just role playing. They're plot devices as well. And I know that may be obvious because when you're writing a story, you write characters, but those are NPCs if you think about it.
And it can also be, if absolutely needed, can be the DM's way of getting some information to the players that they missed or weren't understanding correctly. So an NPC can be there that understands that and can explain it to them.
Well, otherwise, what would you do?
Just let you guys not understand and keep moving.
Yay.
Which is it's always a balancing act, because you don't want them to do something just because they didn't understand something that I explained to you like 5 sessions ago. But you also want them to be able to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. But I think it's a big difference between making a mistake because you didn't understand something and making a mistake because you thought that was the correct thing to do.
Ryan's a tough love DM.
Well, I think it's exciting to watch them do things that won't work out and have them recover from it and learn from these moments.
All the stuff we talk about in this podcast is always very ominous because we have our session shortly after this. It's like
usually the same day.
Yeah, usually the same day. It's like 4 hours ahead of the time that we finish, or actually even less, like 3 or 2 by the time we're done like editing and things.
Yeah.
So we're about to meet a bunch of NPCs.
Yeah, speaking of NPCs, I've been prepping my ass off.
How have you prepped for that?
How have I prepped for that?
Yeah.
Well,
you know your characters are about to meet. He knows. I don't need to explain it. Go ahead.
Well, this kind of leads to one of the other categories. Actually, 2 of the other categories, depending on where it goes. One of the other categories is a regular cast member who is an NPC who will interact with the PCs regularly. Granted, I think it's impossible to be able to tell which NPC will become a regular cast member because you don't know which NPC the party's going to love that much. You could make this really cool NPC that knows a lot of information and is happy to assist and help the players, but they just might not like them. And so they're like, Joe, you seem cool, but we're not gonna contact you again. We're not gonna come back to this village. See ya, pal.
D&D NPC speed dating. Yeah, we're just not feeling it.
We're not working out.
Just get out of here.
Yeah.
We don't enjoy interacting with you for 30 minutes in our session. So just let me put this right here in you. Okay,
I just got a 25-word message from John. I'm just not gonna respond to him. I'm just gonna let that spell fade out.
How long does that spell last?
I actually don't know how long you have to respond. I actually don't think it says on there. I think it's sending. Sending?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you just never speak or he hears? It's like voicemail back when they could hear you in your house if they left a voicemail. Do you remember that?
You can answer. You don't have to. So I guess you just say, screw it.
No,
respond.
Screw it.
Leave it on red.
25 words. I thought you were actually saying that you were getting a message in real life of 25 words. Did something bad happen?
Yeah. But they also, so before they become a regular cast member, they would fall into the category of a guest appearance. It's an NPC who you kind of create. I think most NPCs will start as a guest appearance, and I usually put more work into the NPCs that the players end up liking. So for a session like this, where I just I made a bunch of NPCs, kind of prepped a bunch, and it's actually a perfect session to have prepped for this, because then the 4th and final category that I usually that I've kind of thought of is just kind of the extra dudes. Like in a movie, there's the main cast, there's the secondary cast, and then there's the extras that get paid minimum for just standing in the background of shots. I consider a whole section of NPCs just to be extras because I don't prep them usually. They're just people that are there occupying space, and the players can contact them if they want to. Like at this ball, might be a lady nearby just dancing away. I didn't name her. I didn't make up a backstory for her. I kind of get an idea if she's a noble lady, but that's about it. And the players can, Braxton can attest this, and we've told this before, that's who I am as a player. I'll just randomly grab an NPC walking by and start having a conversation. Yeah, I love interacting with the world like that.
I'd love to have you. I mentioned before this, that was like 4 jumps in thought.
Okay.
Reconvene, go back, find one, Braxton. Okay. That almost made me lose him doing that. So my campaign right now has we're about to start. We're gonna do our good session 0 on Monday, and they're all starting to make their characters. But there's 7 of them.
Seven.
We're doing it over, I believe, Roll20 online. So it's gonna be a crazy voice chat. Thankfully, one of them said he's going to play a mute character. So I think that solves one problem.
Never as before said by a DM. Thankfully, one of my players is gonna be mute. Thank God.
Well, I'm sure that the player is going to be describing their actions quite a bit. The thing that sold me on it was like they did finger guns to somebody in the chat, and I was like, okay, this will be great if they communicate via finger.
I feel like this that could be much easier in person. Over a chat could be interesting.
That's why I'm worried. So I just want to make sure that they're going to be able to interact. But there's 7 people in that campaign, and 7 people are going to want to speak to other characters. So I feel like I'll need to do some prepping for those extras.
It always helps.
Or maybe not. I don't know. Well,
I think the way I prep extras, like I said, I don't really, but the way I prep extras is, for example, at a noble ball, all the extras are either going to be servants or nobles, usually. Guards possibly as well. There's not going to be much else going on there. So I know if you talk to a random guy that I haven't prepared, it's odds out, 9 times out of 10, the odds are going to be it's going to be a noble. So I know the basic idea of what I want a noble to act like, what their beliefs are in this area. You could do the same thing for a city, break it up by districts. I know recently, not really recently, but there was the whole I don't remember the Dragon Heist book that came out, the Waterdeep Wizards of the Coast book. Yeah, and Waterdeep is a gigantic city, and I saw a lot of people confused on how to prep it. And some of the best responses I saw were to get certain sections, break it up by the district, and understand what type of NPC, what type of person will live in that district, will be there, and just understand their motivations. So if someone gets to talk to them, you can kind of have a little bit of prep. You don't have to prep every single district, understand every single person, just understand the very basics.
So, say a player character comes up to your extra character. They don't know, obviously. You think this is the character that you've prepped for specifically them. They are the most fleshed out character. I'm pretty sure that extras can become regular cast members as well. So that's always interesting. I guess it can surprise you as well.
It's happened to us a few times where I would improv a guy and you guys liked him. You'd come back and chat with him again. And
how's it going?
Yeah, he's still a little odd. Usually, we'll get to this in a little bit too about mannerisms for the NPCs. Improv characters, I don't always add a mannerism, but if I find a funny thing that I'll kind of latch onto, or if this guard is not the smartest tool in the shed,
he is a tool.
I'll try to grab onto some quick, easy mannerism they can do that will either, depending on the moment, can either add a little bit of comedic relief or can kind of help ground and make the moment a little more serious.
Yeah.
I think improv characters cannot oftentimes be the good comedic relief for a party.
Yeah, and you got to get comfortable with just kind of not prepping some things. There's a lot of that talk that we'll have throughout this. And prepping everything, if you have the time and dedication, you can do it. Just always be open to having things being rewritten or
I'd say always focus on what you consider to be the most important stuff to prep on. Like, for example, we're getting to with this next session, I prepped about, I don't know, a handful of noble NPCs that I know will be at this party that are going to be, that are pretty big in the world that exist. I also prepped a few other small things that'll be happening at the party, plots and different things that people want to chat with.
I'm sure they'd love to know because they aren't going to be experiencing the session, like the other players are. So you should go ahead and tell them.
Well, maybe next week. Maybe next week we'll talk about.
No, it's fine. It's more relevant than ever. You may forget.
I also got a map of things, but NPC wise, usually what I'll do, and I can grab an older NPC that I did. I would have their name usually in bold letters, so it's easy for me to find if it's on my notes. If you're writing it, you can always highlight it. Then I will, because I like having accents. You don't have to. I will put in parentheses next to them. They're usually not always I don't really have terms for my accents, but I'll usually kind of get inspiration from characters or actors. And so I'll just write down a name or something that I can quickly jump to. Then underneath that in bullet points, I used to have a whole lot more for prep for NPCs, but as I've gotten more comfortable with it, now I'll just have bullet points of where they're from, who they are, their occupation, as well as a brief little kind of physical description of what they look like, so I can describe them to the party. Something that maybe stands out if someone has a pretty high perception, and then what they want, what their motivations are, and that'll generally come up in the conversation.
Yeah, and I think those bulleted lists, you can find plenty of them online. But when you boil it down, those all come from people who have found what works for them when they're trying to write an NPC and what they like to have prepared. So take it with a grain of salt. Use what Ryan has and maybe adjust it as you go along.
Yeah, find what works for you. For everything that we talk about, what we say is not the what end all be all. We're going to have lots of different things.
Every hand.
There is, unless you don't like gloves, and you can put on boots or.
That's not boots are not an alternative to gloves. They do not go on your hands. Have you ever put
shoes on your hands?
Yeah, you lose all dexterity and you have no fingers.
Well, that's okay, man.
Yeah, maybe you're playing a barbarian and you just
don't need
things. You don't need dexterity. You put boots on your hands.
Bam, character idea. Big bozo stupid heads.
NPC character right there. Bozo stupid head barbarian with boots for hands.
And that goes into stereotypes are okay to use, especially if you're improv. You just need to grab a stereotype. That can be a good moment. Or going against the stereotype. You'd be the smartest barbarian ever.
Smart barian.
But for physical stuff, we'll dive into some of the visuals that you'll want. So granted, the dialogue is what Brax kind of brings him into the world, but it's also important to bring a description of this person into the world. It's like their height, their weight, eye and eye color. You don't have to have all of this stuff, obviously, just kind of some things to think about. Different body types, thin, buff, tiny, tall. Sexy, yeah. Clothing, the color of the clothing, their condition. A lot of these things can say a lot about a character. If they have any weapons, what equipment they have on, some distinguishing features like scars or a missing ear or fingers missing. Like we said this the other day, but the alchemist guy who I mentioned last podcast, his defining feature is pretty much his hair, I would say. It stands up on all ends and looks like he's just been burned constantly from his ill potions that have gone
must have missed
awry.
That when I was getting my Panda Express. That's cool.
Yeah, he's got all sorts of crazy. But he also, he burns himself all the time. And I also like describing the houses that they live in. I think it's another good description of what the character that lives inside is like. So like if it's an alchemist like that, maybe there's lots of burn holes on the outsides, something like that. Their facial expressions are important, their body language and movements, their emotional state, their general demeanor. And these things you don't necessarily want to describe to the players, but something that they want to
person,
see.
You can just do it.
Yeah, exactly. Something that they want to see as you're doing the descriptions and talking as the character.
Yeah. So I can see you, obviously, so maybe that's not the biggest problem. But for me, I'd like some advice on ways I can really make my NPCs come to life over, Roll20 and the voice chat that we're doing. Maybe I really do need to work on my voices.
Yeah, and that would definitely help. Voices, it's in a place where you can't see each other, it can go a long way. I'd also feel free to, we mentioned this last time, get crazy with it. Go wild. Go buck wild. Go nutty. Buck wild. Overdo it.
We talked about this just before we hit the recording button, but one of my characters is wanting to do the ancestral monk or whatever. There's one of two new characters that are kind of like overly complicated and they're adding a lot. It doesn't fit with the rest of 5e, but it's cool nonetheless, so do it.
Do it.
But he introduced a crazy mad scientist into his backstory, and I was just like, have they contacted this scientist recently? And he goes, nope. And I go, oh, that's what I wanted you to say.
Mm-hmm. That's always a fun. Once a player introduces NPC, use it.
The DM goes, oh, I can kill them and or make them kill things that you care about. That's the first thought always.
Or all the above.
All of them, everyone, because they're the main villain.
Could be.
Yeah,
There's some people in my campaign who have introduced things that are not necessarily the main villain, but are definitely doing some weird things that the party's becoming intrigued about.
You think time. I don't know what you're talking about?
What am I talking about, huh? You don't know anything.
Yeah, I do know. I can give a guess right now. Nothing. But then it would spoil for everybody else that's in our campaign that's listening to this episode right now because they support us.
Aw, that's nice of them.
Yeah, they do. Last episode, they listened and they were like, you guys did so good. And we were like, oh.
No, we didn't. Oh, JD!
What'd he do?
Did you hear that?
What'd that cat do?
He sneezed all over me. Nasty. Gross.
Now you got to deal with it. We're recording a podcast.
Speaking of nasty and gross, though.
Yeah, what?
NPCs can be nasty and gross. And I
wow,
think
that segue. Holy heck.
And it can be a good way to bring the players into how revolting this person is. But they could also be endearing at the same time. I think I've had an NPC who was a little a little pushy to some of the players, but was he was kind of harmless, but at the same time was just, making them uncomfortable.
Domir?
Domir.
Yeah, that was a good one. He's a good guy. He had a good accent.
He's a cool guy.
My character name had a heart to heart.
Yeah, a couple heart to hearts.
A couple of them. Try to connect with people. But yeah, as a player towards NPCs, almost consider them as other players. I mean, really no difference other than the fact that they don't exist except for the magical mind of theater in your brain.
Magical mind.
But yeah, speak to them. Talk to them. Get to know them.
You can choose
beach.
To make their personality. You could even grab from those personality types, the Myers-Briggs, the INFP, ENFJ, whatever the heck. You could use that as a starting point. Just kind of get your mindset in the right spot. Get their family background, like
use
Braxton
astral
mentioned.
Signs if you want.
You could,
D&D also has them.
They do.
Oh gosh,
I think. At least my world does.
Someone's definitely done it. I mean, I mentioned that because I got a candle next to me that says Capricorn on it. It's a good marketing scheme. It's like, oh, I'm a Capricorn. Let me just buy this because this smell was crafted by the gods of the celestial beings for me.
For me and me alone.
Smells very nice.
But like Braxton mentioned, I have a whole. Please, you don't need to do this. But I have a whole family tree for all the main houses and at least the kingdom that the party's currently in. And I made this originally just for my own well-being, so I could just get all my eggs in one basket and figure everything out in this world. And I did not make this overnight. I've been slowly building it up for since the beginning of the campaign. Really, it's the last 8 months, 9 months, something like that. But you get their family background, just the basic stuff. There's the alchemist. He didn't have a son, but he had a guy that he adopted after goblins attacked his village, and his son went missing. So suddenly there's a plot hook.
Oh, gosh.
So there's a plot hook there for the PCs if they want to grab onto something like that.
We met this guy and said that we'd try to go find the kid, and then I'm pretty sure he left and came back, and he was like, "Did you?"
Yeah, he's like, he's still not around. Please help me.
And how Ryan's campaign works is it's always moving and living, so I'm kind of worried. He did say that he got into a bad crowd, so maybe he's a bad kid.
Could be a bad kid.
Could be a bad kid. I don't want to talk to bad kids.
What you gonna do when they combo you?
No.
Sorry.
So we talked about the categories, what to do, how to do it, but what else is there? Obviously, NPCs are. Oh no.
The motivations and players. We talked about them last week for player characters as well. NPCs have similar things. I mean, like we said, everyone has their motivations. And NPCs don't just want to help the players. They usually have their own stuff going on. Like there was, going back to, we grab a lot of examples from our campaign, especially for NPCs. It's the easiest thing for me to grab onto, especially because I love making them.
Right.
There was an NPC that was helping a noble in this. There was a fight, a big fight that the party was a part of, with all sorts of, devilry and not really devilry, but
Yeah,
It was a big
what are you
fight.
talking about?
I don't know. I'm trying to describe.
The war?
Yeah, I'm trying to say how large, how intense this fight was.
It was a war.
More or less. Yeah, it was a big battle between multiple sides. And obviously, the players were a smaller section of this fight. But one of the generals on their side was this guy named Kali. And he had come from the enemy side. You guys didn't learn that or learn much about him until after the fight had happened, but he described that his significant other, his boyfriend, was they were living together with this lord, this terrible man. And he started to learn all sorts of nasty things about him, and he decided to try to escape with his boyfriend, but he didn't get out, and only Kali did.
I do not remember this.
You don't remember that happening? That happened.
At all.
This was the session
happen?
right after the fight. He described exactly you guys were asking if he knew anything about Shelton, and he described that. But how he knew how to escape, and he told you the easiest way in if you wanted to go back. But yeah, that was his motivation. Yeah, it was through through kind of the sewer area, but he said it was dangerous.
I remember.
So that's why they did. That's
now,
why he didn't get out.
I don't remember him.
Yeah, so it was his motivation to help the party isn't just for the players' benefit. It's because he wants to see this lord die and perish, so he can hopefully see his boyfriend again, if everything works out.
We'll passively complete that quest. I doubt we'll remember to do it.
But it's important to. It's just important to think, like, what does the NPC want for this specific encounter? There's a kind of the rule of dialogue is someone's always wanting something and the other person's always kind of giving to them. So it's kind of a give and take there. The other thing is, what does the NPC want in a week or a month or in the next 12 months or the long-term goals? Kind of just start thinking about them. Do they want to make money?
Pay off their mortgage?
Yeah. Do they want to pay off their mortgage? Do they want to go to college? What's their... Do they have any kids? Do they want to push through the academy? Who knows?
Has the Mad Mage of Kavath destroyed their everything and they want revenge?
Probably. Sounds like something the Mad Mage would do.
Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't come over here.
So those are all pretty good motivations to kind of start off. And you also kind of, I mean, for villains, and villains do fall into the category of NPC, and you want to put a little bit more thought into them. You obviously want to have motivations. Think of your favorite villains from stories. You can always kind of not really sympathize with them, but can understand where they're coming from. You want to have a villain that isn't just trying to slaughter everybody, but maybe they're slaughtering them to save them from something, or they're trying to, I don't know, just something that will make them seem more real than just, the big bad guy who's just trying to kill people. Because that's not too exciting.
I'm just thinking of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure right now.
Of course, yeah. That's all it's in
Their villains are so good. Like the main villain in part 4 just wants to live a peaceful life.
See,
and it just starts escalating because as more people get involved, he is, I can't say too much, but as more people get involved, he gets more out of hand and bad things keep happening to him because he tries to fix them. So he seems very human because he has a problem that he just cannot fix.
As they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Boom.
Is it?
Apparently, that's what they say.
Who are they? People from hell?
It's always they. Who is
they? Are they trying to entice me with good intentions? Because I'm not going to.
Who are you people?
I don't know. But for you players out there, something that is easy to get in the habit of doing is just kind of playing the game and only thinking about NPCs as they're in front of you. So what I mean by that is when you're interacting with an NPC that you've met with several times, remember those several times. Don't just forget and come back and treat them like any old NPC. Try to, if there was a connection made, remember it. And when you get back there,
ask them how they're doing.
And
then you'll feel something when they die.
Yeah. So get connected.
Live
in that world.
Give them your phone number.
Yeah. I mean, romance. Maybe you're like, my character really likes them. Or you could say me, I like them because you are.
They're attractive.
I know where I'm going with this. But baseline, NPCs, they exist and always will in that world, and try not to just disregard that they exist. I'm
Yeah,
sure your
treat them.
DM would love that you poke and prod their world.
I do. I love poking and prodding.
He does it himself. And that's why I wish he could be in my campaign. But we have 7 people. I don't want to do 8. And I'm sure he doesn't want to do 8.
No, that'd be tough.
It would be very, very tough.
The most we ever did, I think, was 6. I think we got up to 6 in the last campaign for like a couple sessions.
6 is handleable. 5 is like, I think somewhere from 3 to 5. 3 being nearly too little. Number. 5 being nearly too much, but still manageable.
I mean, 7 can be done. It depends on the people who are in it. If people, if they all know their ins and outs and how they work well together, then it can work. Because I know, I think Critical
they are all a close group of friends.
Yeah, I had 7 for a while, so and that worked out well because they didn't really talk over each other. They understood each other and then shared the spotlight, stuff like that.
Well, one of them does podcasts as well, and if I remembered, it's 2 chunks and a hunk. So if you ever feel like, sorry, we're shouting out a random podcast.
No, that's Ryan. Nothing wrong with that.
But they do movie reviews and discuss that sort of thing. Really great guy, so I'm sure he'll be awesome on the microphone. And they're all close friends. It's my sister's fiance. It feels weird saying, but it should be okay. So they've been sending me their character ideas, and I feel pretty good about them being involved. It's making me really want to make a world for them to be in.
Heck yeah. That's what it's all about. Make your DM happy and make your players happy.
That's the best way to facilitate a great game. But are there anything else that you really
I was about to say
really
the final thing I can think of, just because I mentioned it previously, we just didn't really dive into it, is just the mannerisms, the type of different mannerisms you can give your NPCs. Or even give yourself as a player if you want to have some weird mannerism. There's the physical kinds where their posture, they have slumped shoulders or a head looking a certain direction at all times, just cocked to the side. Then maybe they got a crook in their neck that they can't get out. Maybe one of the players notices and says, "Hey, can I give you a massage, sir? I feel like I can help your woes." And that'll maybe they'll give them a discount. I don't know.
Yeah. It's always great to have those NPCs that, come around once in a blue moon or every arc that are just in your face and so
literally
created. Yeah, maybe things I think about are like that sort of gang leader, but it's a really bombastic, like larger woman, and she hits on any young boy in front of her, like your strapping young knight. You get in, you come to this harbor where she's like leading the shipments around maybe, and your group comes up and it's full of young people, and she just wants to help them or talk to them because it's full of strapping young men.
Oh yeah.
But also it's great to have those extras, like Ryan said, that just are there to make the world feel like a world.
Yeah, I think the extras bring the world, make it more realistic, because there's lots of people around, especially in big cities. But the big ones that you spend time with are the ones that really bring the players into the world and make them want to spend time in it.
Yeah. So NPCs are very, very important. And we could talk like ad nauseum about it infinitely. But all in all, I think we've tried to touch on mostly everything. Something else that I would mention is just, Ryan said to avoid having them tell the players everything, but if you're needing to direct the players, they are a great device to give a gentle push if they're doing nothing or they don't know what is going on. It's you killed the big monster in your last arc. You're around town, you did your shopping, and now your players are like, what the heck do we do? Of course, they could go in any direction. That's the instinct I have as a player of video games. You just go and you find something eventually. But Ryan always just has an NPC run up to us, and however cliche it might be or lame, he just throws us a bone.
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, you're at the end of the day, you are playing a game where you're trying to make these cool stories. You can toss them plot hooks, toss them things. Don't force them to take them, but give them the option. And I mean, I've found, maybe I have nice players, they end up usually taking at least one of the ones I've tossed in their way.
Yeah. Well, think about this. I think this is the best analogy. When playing Skyrim, how freaking stoked are you when that courier comes up to you?
I hate him.
What? Okay, fine.
Well, I think because I've played it so many times now. Every time he
okay,
comes
well,
up,
the first time you played it, You're
I
like,
can't
ah,
remember.
heck, what is he about to give me?
It's like, who heard of me, huh? What is
Yeah.
this Jarl? What did he hear
There's
me,
a
huh?
thing coming
Do I
to
need to
me.
go kick
It's a
someone's
letter.
ass? Huh? What
Maybe.
did you say about me?
You get a note and you read it. Maybe it's like, hey, you killed my wife. I sent these
Yes.
bandits after you.
Yeah, some of those notes are really weird. Like,
Yeah.
how did they send this? Why did they just send it to me in the post? Why did they not just leave it somewhere for me or
I don't
give
know.
it to me themselves?
And Corey's just like, I'm just the messenger, man.
Yeah, I'm just
But
dropping this off.
you could even just not read the note.
Mhm.
So it's a great analogy for little leads, NPCs coming at you. You don't have to go with everything.
Like for the most
that it
recent
says.
one with the ball, with the feast at the noble ball that the party's headed towards. I had there in this city, they're starting to get recognized, and they get approached by the guards and say, "Hey, what's his butt would love to have dinner with you guys if you want to come drop by." They didn't have to go, but they decided, yeah, I guess we'll
We went,
I guess we'll go by.
Sure.
Sure,
Why not? That'd be fine. We're all
What
smelly
could
and came
go
from a dungeon, and we were
wrong?
traveling for like several days straight.
Yeah, stench is
You don't have to
rancid.
you have to keep track of those types of things, but you know, if it happens, it's happening. You could say, "Hey, you guys are kind of smelly." And the player's like, "What? We've never had to deal with that before." Well, yeah, you never cared.
Well,
You
there is the
smelly
cantrip
tiefling.
that will clean you all up.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone has it, but it exists.
Well, I think one of our players can create water.
Yes, you could take a little bath if you wanted to
Yeah.
before you head on out.
Kind of imagining like water gun fight with our players. Beach
That'd
episode.
That'd be cute.
That would be cute. Be very sweet. But Ryan, is it
I got a-
time?
I got a question for you, real quick. So you come from an acting background,
Do I?
correct? Yeah. So to help you, do you practice? I mean, obviously with scripts and stuff, you have a script to practice, but would you practice, just getting into the character's head and having conversations with them in your head? Or is that crazy talk?
It's not crazy talk. So I've got the age-old problem of lack of preparation just because, I don't have the strongest focus all the time.
Gotcha.
But ideally, when creating an NPC or my character, there's two things, of course. I play my character really often, so I don't need to practice. But if I'm making an NPC, and I know I want them to have a voice, I'll want to practice that.
Yeah.
Get that prepped. And otherwise, writing their backstory should be enough for me to consider that and get into it just because of my background. I know how to use motivations.
Get into their head.
But I think practicing is something that you should always do for those NPCs that are about to get introduced for the first time and they're a bit more fleshed out. I think practicing would be a great thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
I definitely do that quite a bit.
Unless you're just an improv guy. And that is another train of thought and theater. So
Well, even with improv, let's say you want to do accents for improv characters, practice enough accents so you can just have a bunch in your toolbox to whip out whenever you feel like it.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a couple, but I'm always planning to hopefully try to get some more. And as Braxton said last time, it doesn't always have to be an accent. Could have a stutter.
And it's fine
Slow down your voice.
if your go-to accent is kind of Australian, kind of British, kind of
All right.
that typical accent. It's fine.
All right, nothing wrong with this.
All right.
All right, mate. Let's just keep it going, eh? Get the fuck out of the way, mate.
Yeah, I'll leave. I'll get out. I'll go.
Yeah, something like that. It's okay.
And we're back.
Where'd we go? You left and immediately
I
came
left.
back?
Yeah, I had to do a thing.
How rude.
It's okay. I had to get my dice.
It's okay. Have conversations with yourself in your head as an NPC. Commit to the role. Get crazy. Be the weird guy if you have to. And oftentimes people will follow your lead.
Be the weird guy because you have to.
And that's about it. That's NPCs in a nutshell.
In the nutshell, it's been open. Don't eat the nutshell. Eat the nuts. But
I don't
Ryan,
like nuts anyway. So.
you interrupted me before, but is it time?
Yeah, you asked if it's time. Is it time?
Is it?
I couldn't find any of the roll sheets. I'm going to be honest. I tried real hard.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, we
they're-
haven't done everything, but this dice roller man gives us that 35 a lot.
Eventually we will. But yeah, man, I tried real. I mean, there are roll sheets out there that exist, but none that have you create something like this. That's the best that I could find.
Right.
That have two things to roll on, allow us
We
to
could
create a
always
little bit
make
of
our
a
own, but then
story.
we'd have preconceived ideas.
That's a lot of effort, though, too.
Yeah, it is.
I don't got time for that, man. I've got.
Did you just burp on our pod?
I'm so sorry.
Was that intentional?
I can actually. Can you burp on command? I can't. Kind of, I guess. Yeah.
Now we're burp. Well, that was. I can do a better one.
Let's not. We'll take his
No?
word for it.
We don't want to have a burping session.
No, that's fine. ASMR. That'll be a different podcast.
I've been challenged, and I'm suppressing my need to overcome it.
Now, you said you had a question
Just like
for me?
holding
Is
down
that
a
something you
bird.
want to ask now?
No,
Or-
it's not an actual question, Ryan. I'm just trying to get you to yell, roll that dice.
No, I meant like earlier. You already forgot, didn't you?
Oh, I hate you so much.
He did. That's fine. We can roll the
Hold,
dice.
no,
now.
hold on. What were we talking
It
about?
was to do with my family tree.
Yeah, how many people are on it?
Way too many to count.
No.
There is.
No.
What do you mean, no?
I've seen it. There's a countable number on there.
Okay, I mean, yeah, not right now, not off the top of my head. I mean, the first family has like at least 20.
All right, I'm gonna count them later, just so
Yeah, you
just
can
so
count 'em later.
I can
Just so you
metagame.
know. But I've also
and
added
know.
more since that picture. So
Have we talked about metagaming like in depth?
no, but we will.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great session.
Maybe
I don't know
next
what we're doing
time.
next. Maybe, but I know Ryan's really
Maybe.
itching to get to monsters.
Yeah, I'd love to. We can just have like a one-off. Just have it like dive into an actual monster.
Yeah,
And figure out have some fun there. That'd be cool.
yeah. We're considering doing a little waffle cast.
Yeah.
Like-
So
like
Waffle Cast would be
sub-episodes.
where a short podcast, maybe on the weekends. I don't know when we put it up quite yet. Just somewhere in between the previous episode, and we'll just be chatting about random stuff.
Chit chatting. That'd be fun. More
Mhm.
episodes. More speaking. Oh, okay.
All right,
This
roll your
dice roll
die.
is ready. Are you?
Yep.
I won't do it until you do your
I
thing.
You want me to explain what this is?
You can do that.
Well, if you're new here, this is a roll sheet that we found by the_Crimson on D&D Behind the Screen Reddit page, where you create unique objects and entities. There's 2 D100 things, and we roll 2 D100s and make something up.
Roll the dice.
That's what I was waiting for. Thank you.
Yeah,
This
no
time I'm
problem.
going to roll 2 dice at once
Oh, that's dangerous.
instead of 1 at a time.
You're playing with fire.
Playing with dice. Digital dice. Here we go. Interesting. How does it do that? So
What is
it's 98.
98.
98.
It's a garden.
And
But what
77.
Kind. A 77.
Oh, come on.
Okay, so it's a garden, but what type of garden? It's a garden made of multiple types of wood.
That's
sure.
it. No, perfect.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay,
Got
yeah, go
easy.
for it.
Easy.
All right, easy it is. Then do it.
Is he stalling? Maybe. Okay. So you've been traveling in the forest for days.
I have been.
It's not been too harsh. I mean,
It's kinda
you would have
nice out here.
expected there to have been a giant spider or two, maybe an orangutan,
I think the
or
gods
wolves
don't
that come
like
to
you.
attack you, but something seems off about this forest.
I
You'd
just
heard
can't
that
put my finger on it.
You'd heard that elves live here and that they make this their home. There's an entire colony of them, and you've yet to see anything. Seems like twists and turns come by you. You've seen that tree, this tree before. A rogue made a mark on that one over there. We've seen it.
I have.
And you keep going. And there's a bit of a clearing. And you've not seen a lack of trees for hours. But you come out and it's this massive circle just...
Beautiful.
I know, it's really pretty, isn't it? Should we go?
I'd love to. Do you see any flowers?
Hey, Carrie. Yeah? Can you go out there? I mean, yeah. Let me roll a sneak check here.
Be careful, Carrie. We don't know what lurks in these woods.
Carrie rolled a 15,
Carrie, how dare you?
so she crouches and shuffles through the grass and tries getting out there. And the second she gets there, she stops and stands. And everybody just is confused. What is she doing? She's our rogue. Why is she standing in the middle of this wide open plain?
Carrie!
What are you doing? She doesn't turn around.
Oh no.
Should we go get her?
Yeah, you first. I'll stay here.
Okay, I'll go. And he steps out, and the first thing that breaches his vision, surprisingly, is more trees. But from the clearing where you were, there weren't any. Nothing. But you come in, and it's spruce. It's acacia. A whole horde of different trees from all over the lands. And in the middle is an impossibly beautiful elf tending to a garden.
My love.
And you assume this is what your rogue friend had stopped to take in. Because on these trees there's runes and images of dancing fairies and fae. And if you wanted to, you could call out to this elf.
I could.
You could, but it's so peaceful that you don't want to interrupt her peaceful gardening and guarding of this place.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Okay. That was interesting. A lot longer than
That was lovely.
Ah!
Carrie.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Have you
Carrie.
seen Carrie?
Seen Carrie?
Yeah, Stephen King.
No.
It's all right. You should.
I'm a cultured swine, Ryan. I only consume anime. Pretty much. Anime and podcasts.
Anime and podcasts, such as
The Dungeon Crawl.
Where we roll that dice!
I already did. I got a 54. A desert. What kind of dessert?
Is it dessert or desert?
Ooh, I feel like we've gotten that one before. I'm rolling it. Ooh. So desert, a transparent desert.
What the heck?
Yes, okay. So after weeks of walking, leaving the mountains far, far behind, the party collects themselves.
Why are we always walking in these?
I don't know. It's just my feet are killing me. I just can't wait to sit down somewhere.
You're telling me.
As the party converses amongst themselves, the sun begins to rise above them, beating down ever so hard. As they continue to walk in whatever direction they choose.
Northeast.
Northeast is a great direction, the god says from above. One of the party members begins to feel some strange silt fall upon their feet as they walk, almost like they're stuck in snow, but
Got sand in my shoe.
there isn't any snow or sand.
What?
As you take the shoe off, you hear the sound of something leaving your shoe and pushing your hand down to
That was a
catch
big
whatever is
pebble.
falling. It feels like sand, but there's nothing there. The sun continues to beat ever so strongly.
It's so hot.
And suddenly, you hear in front of you a man walking. No, he's on top of something. Coming over the hill, you see, well, only one of you has the highest perception to be able to make this out. They see a camel, at least. I don't know if your character's never really seen a camel before, but this creature that has humps on its top.
And it's spitting.
Yes, it's spitting, and there's a man on top of it, slowly riding your direction.
Hello there, friends. It's wonderful to make your acquaintance.
I don't know if we want to talk to somebody that speaks like
He
that.
shouts out. No response from the party.
Nope.
It's lovely to see you in the transparent desert of Yukani. How are you today?
Transparent, you said.
Yes, it's. Do you know what that means?
Yes?
How about we hold our yelling until we get closer?
Okay.
My voice hurts.
Who
He
is
continues
this
to walk
guy?
closer to you.
Much better. Yes, transparent means, it seems my voice is always yelling now that I think about it. Transparent, it means you can't see it. So you have to make your way through here quickly. And do you know what a mirage is?
Yes.
I am one.
And he fades away from vision.
Wait, so if I look around, is it transparent?
You can see what appears to be, a forest, but it's not humid like a forest. It's hot, like a desert,
And we're walking on invisible sand,
apparently.
so we're floating?
No, it's there. It's like, it's like dirt.
Oh. That was great. I am one. Okay. That
Blowing
threw me
your
for
mind.
a loop.
And I think that brings into a good point. You don't always have to stay in the constraints of the D&D rules. If you want to do something cool, obviously if it's not in the detriment to your players, if you want to do something cool, the NPC doesn't always have to have a certain spell from the player's handbook or something. It can kind of have its own weirdness to it if you want.
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of that, especially because of my background with the adventuresome. If I want a character to be able to disappear in a cloud of brimstone and ash, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, as long as you're not doing it to kill your players, I think it's all right.
I don't know. I think it's pretty okay.
Well, then you get some angry players.
Angry. Alrighty, we're at the end here.
We are sitting
Twitter.
at a pretty hour.
Twitter, Instagram, follow.
At Dungeon Crawl Pod.
Thank you.
And you can find us. I assume you've already found us as you're nearing the end of the podcast. But if you haven't found us on other podcasting platforms, check us out on all of them. We're on every single one.
Every single one of them. Make one right now. We'll be on it.
The Dungeon Crawl. You can email us at thedungeoncrawlpod@gmail.com. Send us all your hate mail. Make sure you rate us 5 stars.
Not that we're out, because we just started this. Is this episode 7?
7.
Wow, what are we gonna do for 10?
I don't know. That's still 3 episodes away.
That's 3 weeks.
I only think
Old by then.
one podcast ahead. I never think ever about anything else.
That's smart.
No, it's not.
Until you're dead.
But next week, what shall we chat about? We're not entirely sure. We should probably start figuring that before we record an episode.
Sure. Yes.
But
we should.
Our idea is probably to maybe at least for one episode to finally dive into a certain creature or certain entity and
don't
just
go
fall
prey to what he's saying right now. He really wants to.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun to dive into certain creatures and have both of us just kind of research into it, or maybe just one of us, the other person asks questions about them, and we can create some
doing all the work.
But we can create some adventure hooks and things like that. I think it'd be very, very interesting. We're not entirely sure if we're going to do a bunch of. We're planning to make it into a series, but probably not immediately. We're probably not going to do a bunch in a row.
Yeah.
So no problem.
Well, we've covered a good bit of bases in terms of
getting started
and things that you want.
So for Braxton's sake, since he's getting back into his first or second campaign, I guess really, he's now got some stuff to go back on over and take some notes.
Yeah. They were asking me some questions that we've gone in depth about, my new players, in the podcast, and I almost was just thinking, well, I talked about this in my podcast.
Well, come check out the Dungeon Crawl.
Go listen to the near 8 hours that we've recorded.
Yeah.
Of stuff.
You gotta start somewhere.
Somewhere. All right.
Over the rainbow.
Yeah, I was gonna sing, but I can't sing.
Somewhere. Perfect.
Was that the Mirage?
That was fading away. That's the sound it made as it disappeared from vision.
Quick question: are we putting these places in our world? Are you being sneaky?
Well, Yukani exists.
Yeah.
So I mean, a lot of times I just pull them out of my butthole because I can't think of any other names off the top of my head. So I'll just use that name. But maybe that place does exist and you just haven't found it yet. Maybe the Mad Mage of Kavath.
Mad Mage of Kavath
person is out there waiting to strike.
Always is. All right, you guys. Thanks for taking a good old listen. Lend in your ears.
Thanks for being here. I've been Ryan.
I've been Braxton. Only on
Saturdays.
I
won't be Ryan again until next week. So
yeah, we are not who we say we are.
We are something bigger. We are the dungeon crawl. Crawl.